Alright, so this is a comic I've been wanting to read, and I actually got it yesterday. When I did my video yesterday talking about, future Batman movies, I mentioned I was going to do a review of this comic. And this was sent to me by my good friend, Mount Vernon Kid, Chris. I know you're watching this video. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I cannot wait to see what you send me next. I can't wait. Can't wait to see what you send me next. Anyway, so this is part of the Black Label, or in some cases, Bat Label, for DC Comics. And DC Black Label has been very hit or miss since its inception. I think we've been getting, as of late, more hits, but they've been all Batman comics. Although, I do want to read Wonder Woman Dead Earth, because that looks really cool, and everyone says that's probably one of the best Wonder Woman stories they've read in a long time. And I do want to read another non-Batman Black Label book I really want to read is The Death of Vic Sage. It's a question story by Jeff Lemire. That one I want to read too. But we're going to talk about this because I really wanted to read this, and Chris said, I ordered it for you, and it's actually a funny story. I actually got this, when I got this yesterday, it just came out of the blue. Like, there was no... Chris usually gives me, like, a heads up, like, hey, check your mailbox or whatever. And even he was like, it came? What? Turns out this thing was pre-ordered, and the moment it got released, it shot out from Amazon. Goddamn Bezos. Anyway, but enough about that. Let's talk about Batman the Imposter. So Batman the Imposter is obviously a alternate universe story, and I know I just did a video yesterday talking about like wanting less realism for Batman and more like them embracing more comic book elements, and this is a very gritty and realistic Batman, like probably one of the most realistic Batman, but even then it acknowledges that, yeah, it's still a fucking comic book universe. So it's actually like, if anything, and it's kind of funny because for some reason in my dumb, stupid brain, I thought this was like a tie-in to, like, this was supposed to be a prequel to the Pattinson Batman movie coming out next week. And it does look like that, right? Like, we all agree, like, that costume does look like the Pattinson costume, but this is not. This has nothing to do with it. Although it is from Mattson Tomlin, who has done movies before, like Project Power and a few other movies here and there. He's been a scriptwriter, and I think he did have something to do with The Batman. I cannot be sure. And the artwork by Andrea Sorrentino. I've heard like two different versions. So Sorrentino, who I think is a really good artist, does this book. And this is a 3-issue book that just came out in trade like this week. Like, it just came out in trade this week. Now, let's get into the actual story. We're 3 minutes in. Let's talk about the fucking story. So, this is a very open-shut thing where it's a Batman in his early career, and there's an imposter going around and killing people. Not like villains or whatever, but like they're killing like rapists and thugs and whatever on live TV and making sure they're being seen. Now, Batman obviously knows this is sus, but he can't call an emergency meeting and say, hey, I'm not Batman. Why? Because in this continuity, this is exactly what it would probably be the best example of why Batman can't work as a human being, and why Batman can't work in the real world, because literally, they talk about how there's no Gordon or Alfred here. Not because they're dead, but because, like, Alfred just threw his hands up in the air when, he just gave up on Bruce at a young age because he was so mentally devastated and like just lashed out at everyone as a kid. And Gordon was kicked off the force because he was helping a vigilante. Like, yeah, obviously, like, if word got out that a police force was helping an armed vigilante, like, outside of the law, yeah, obviously it stands to reason that they'd be kicked off the force. And that's the thing, is that the other thing that because Gordon was helping Batman was because all those names came out. Like, all those names, like deep cover detectives and whatever, all of his entire precinct got left to die from all these gangs and whatever. So this is this is also a pretty fucked version of Batman. It's not obviously like completely like, alright, it never goes to a point where you're like, okay, you're trying too hard to be dark. But it is like, Jesus, we went there. if you're expecting also, like, you know, your typical Joker, which, are we going to see Joker? Are we going to see, like live act, like, realistic versions of those? We do get Penguin, and we do get Black Mask, but they're just minor in there. It actually focuses in, even though it's not really a known Batman character as the Imposter, I'm not going to spoil the Imposter, but I'm just going to say right now, it's not someone you know, it's not Jason or whatever, it's not that, but there are lesser Batman villains who actually play important roles in this story. One being, and it took me a moment to go, oh, okay, I get it, I know who this is now, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, we got that character. I'm going to say right now the two that play the most important roles are the Ratcatcher and the Ventriloquist. Not going to say more than that. And also another character that plays a very important role here is Leslie Tompkins, who Batman crashes in. The start of the comic is basically her hearing a sound because Bruce crashed into her apartment. She takes off the mask. It's like, oh, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Oh my god. So basically to keep him from basically saying, all right, you're going to come here every day at dawn, and we're going to talk about what you did, and I'm going to be your therapist again, like she was. And if you don't, you come like a minute late, I'm going to call the cops and arrest you. Now, obviously, Batman's the Imposter has other like realistic elements, but there is one more character I want to talk about. A detective in here, real quick. Let me remind myself of her name. I don't want to get it wrong. Real quick. It's Blair Wong, Detective Blair Wong. I knew it was I knew it was Detective Wong. I wanted to get the first name, but Blair Wong in here is a young detective who's been tailing Batman, and actually like brings up a lot of good points. Like she's talking about how in this continuity, like there are zip lines all across like towers everywhere, and they're like, those zip lines don't belong on these buildings. Also, there's motorcycles stashed in different places, and they are like 27 different motorcycles that are all like over $6,000. So someone's just leaving like literally $1 million on the street. And so she already like figures out that like, okay, Batman's either being backed by a military group or like he has connections, like very high financial connections. Like, she's actually doing detective work to figure out who Batman is. And the other thing that really goes in here is that, obviously, Batman's dealing with a lot of crime, but there's also a lot of damage he's doing in here. This is a very young, inexperienced Batman, and obviously he's like, they talk about how he's blowing up buildings, disrupting, funds to other people. So the 1% is a little pissed off. Admittedly, like the 1% is a little pissed off, and that's ruffling some feathers in the higher ups, as you would think in real life. So, yeah, I'm not going to spoil the whole book. I'm not going to spoil this book. Like I said, it just came out. I just gave you the bare bones. It's a really good story. It's like I said, I'm very aware that I just did a video talking about how I kind of want less realistic Batman and more like embracing the comic elements. I'm fine with this. I'm like fine with this because it really does walk the line of, yeah, realistic Batman, but it's actually embracing like those fun comic elements, but in like this would happen. Like if this was Batman was a real person, people would acknowledge he's crazy. Like they fully acknowledge that, yeah, Batman is crazy. There's just some great dialogue in here. I really enjoyed this story. So, Chris, again, I know you're watching this, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you again for this, and I cannot wait to see what you send me next. Do I recommend Batman the Imposter? Yeah. If you like, this comic is the perfect thing to read right before going to see The Batman, in my opinion. Although I will say it is hardcover and it is about $30, so be prepared for that. You might want to get it off of you might want to get it like a discount or something if you don't want to spend the full price. I know it's hard out there. Anyway, so you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of Batman the Imposter? Did you guys read it? Did you guys like it, hate it? And yeah, once again, if you haven't already, hit the link below to my Patreon. Thanks again to the Mount Vernon Kid for this. And other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.